Hello, this is a remake of my parts 5 and 6 of the Veils and Einstein series that I posted already on YouTube because I can condense the information in those two parts into this one single part 5. Now, part 4 was finishing with the concept of the human transformation. And I mentioned that it is a transformation at 35 billion miles per second. Now, it's important for us to understand that from both the spiritual and the scientific side, we are shown that it is a transformation into energy of an unspecified or possibly altered energy state. And this is also what Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, is showing us. It's showing us how we will transform. In the channelings that I received, I was told that our human essence is transforming into diamond. And this is, of course, a metaphorical diamond light. It is under pressure that this transformation will happen. And those pressures are coming to us in our personal lives, in the pressures of humanity and what's happening in humanity all around you, in the pressures of traveling at the speed of light. It's important to know, however, that this is not an end of the human essence. That's why it's called a transformation. It is into an altered energy state that is closer to the light. Another woman that I have heard expresses it that our bodies will be crystallized, and diamond bodies sound very much the same to me. Energy transforms constantly. Consciousness transforms consciously. Energy is. Consciousness is. You're starting to understand that energy is the same thing as consciousness. Both are constantly transforming, and both are all powerful. I want to get back to the E equals mc squared to clarify just one extra point, and that is the symbol C, which I've already mentioned is the scientific symbol for the speed of light. And Einstein used this C as a symbol because he said that the speed of light was a constant speed. Therefore, the C. And with our small neutrinos, we now know that this constant is, in fact, not a constant. But at the time, Einstein thought it was, and so did all of we. Energy is consciousness. I would like to propose that the small c in Einstein's equation actually stands also for consciousness. Because enlightenment is the pure, unformed state of the consciousness that is. And so in Einstein's equation, E, for me, stands for enlightenment. Scientifically, we say E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Spiritually, we can say E equals enlightenment equals mass times the speed of light squared, because we transform into consciousness at that speed, or simply enlightenment equals mass times consciousness squared. And that makes total sense to me. I'd like to finish my interviews or my videos with several more correlations between the scientific world and how they are expressing what they believe or what they have found out, and the spiritual world and how a spiritual person expresses things. And I will show in many ways how we're all saying exactly the same thing. The first of those is to speak about this formless state. The scientific way of naming the formless state is to call it dark energy. They say that dark energy is a mysterious form of energy that is not detectable, but that permeates all that is in the universe. Well, the spiritual way of saying it is that consciousness permeates all that is. And so, the combination of those two, quite simply, is that dark energy is the consciousness that is. Then we move on to another explanation about dark energy. Science calls it dark simply because it cannot be detected. It does not have any form that is within the electromagnetic spectrum, which is how scientists describe our world. Dark energy is outside of that, and therefore dark to us. Spiritually, they say that dark energy is dark because the knowledge of it is outside our veil of consciousness. It is outside that which is contained in the human realm, and therefore it is dark to us. One of the first separations out of dark energy into something else, scientifically, is called dark matter. And dark matter is explained as not having any way of detecting it directly, but the scientists know that it is there because of the effect that it has on other detectable items in the universe. Now, spiritually, the correlation to that would be your intuition, or inkling, or things that drop out of the blue into your brain. You don't know where from. These all, dark matter and and inklings, are the first condensations out of the pure, formless consciousness that is, out of the dark energy that is. One of the very, very next condensations has been explained to us by James Clerk Maxwell when he explained how the electric waves and the magnetic waves arise into being. This is the same thing as our thoughts or our imagination arising into being, or in the quantum way of saying it, collapsing out of the all into being. Now these are just minutely more condensed than pure dark matter or pure intuition and inkling. They're a little bit heavier, but it is another form of consciousness condensing into a more heavy state in both the spiritual and in the scientific world. Electromagnetic waves, including gamma rays, X-rays, radio waves, and thought waves, waves of imagination that come to us, all of these carry intelligence with them. They carry intent with them. And this is where our world is created, out of this intelligence and with the intent of it being created into being. Then too in science, we're talking about expansion. Now science says that the universe is expanding, and this has been proven by the Hubble Space Telescope. Spiritualists say that human consciousness is expanding. And we prove that because we see it happening worldwide now. More and more people are becoming very conscious of how they live and of who they are. And so, in the correlation between science and spiritual, because the human consciousness is what is under our veil of consciousness, which is our entire universe, and which is expanding, then when the scientists say that the universe is expanding, I say, of course it is, because human consciousness is expanding. And there's a tandem effect going on here. Consciousness expands, and the universe expands. The universe expands, and consciousness expands. It's inescapable because we're talking about the same thing. There is also an exponential rate to an exponential curve to the rate of expansion. Now in science, they call this cosmic acceleration. And that means that the expansion of the universe is actually accelerating itself. Spiritually, I say yes, the expansion of human consciousness is happening on an exponential rate. I will be speaking to you now. Maybe there are 100 people listening to this video. You will then go and speak to 5 people each. Those 5 will go and speak to 5 other people each. Those 25, will speak to 5 people each. This is showing the exponential rate of the expansion of human consciousness. So when we combine the scientific and the spiritual, we have cosmic acceleration, the ever-increasing rate of the expansion of the universe being the same thing as the ever-increasing exponential rate of the expansion of human consciousness. And lastly, one more very important point. I have been given an alternate theory to the Big Bang. Now first, it's important for us to start to realize that in science, currently today, we actually have 2 creation myths. We have the classical Big Bang, which means from one intensely dense point in space and time, everything went boom. Immediate, instantaneous universe, expansion into the entire universe that we have. This is the classical scientific myth of creation. But now we also have quantum science, which is saying that everything that is has collapsed into being. They don't really say out of what it has collapsed, but in any way you look at it, immediate expansion, Big Bang into being, and quantum collapse and condensation into being are 2 opposite concepts, and both of them are currently in our scientific paradigm. Now, spiritually, and throughout both of my books, the universal consciousness says that the Big Bang is a Big Bang explosion of consciousness. And it takes us back to the pure, enlightened state of the consciousness that is the formless all of every potential form, but itself a formless, enlightened state of the all. And then they say, the universal consciousness says, that after a timeless time in the all, and meaning that because time is part of the human realm. In this all, there is potential time, but there is no measurable time. So there's no way of saying how long we are in this enlightened state of the all. It can be instantaneous. It can be 10 million years. And apparently it is totally according to our own desire, how long we want to experience the all. But then eventually, if we decide we want to experience something less than the all, then that is when we come back out of the all, condensing into being or collapsing into being using the quantum term, drawing the veil down, giving a separation between the all and now the limited. And then we begin again to learn the lessons of this new level of consciousness that we have condensed into. The speed of light speed limit has now been broken, and this opens myriad possibilities for limitless human expansion. And for one, my consciousness soars with the thoughts of all of the possibilities. I have channeled this information in 2008 through to 2010. And everything that I have read, either before the channelings or after, only speaks of a classical scientific Big Bang theory. Nowhere else, and even after speaking with quantum physicists, nowhere else is there any other explanation offered to us. However, it is very clear that quantum says that there is a collapse into being to begin our next level of being. The universal consciousness tells us that this act of separation, this instantaneous moment when we separate out of the all, causes the veil to immediately drop down, obscuring the knowledge of the all from our being. Because in the limited state, we cannot be the all. And the all cannot be here in the limited state. That is why there is no recognition of it or no memory of being in this pure reality. We are also told that there are cycles of consciousness. And each cycle brings with it the rules and regulations that pertain to that particular level of consciousness. This is the sacred geometry of that particular level of consciousness. I once heard it explained that sacred geometry was a consciousness experiment of the physical state and of time. I thought that was perfect, because the human realm, which is our sacred geometry, is an experiment of consciousness in the state of physical and with the concept of time. This is our sacred geometry. And from the cycle, as we are in one cycle, we then evolve to the edge of the veil. We evolve until we have understood all that can be understood within this realm. And in our human realm now, quantum physics is bringing us right to the edge of this veil. And that is when, with Einstein's E equals MC squared, we transform back to the pure consciousness that is, and then we collapse again into being, into the next level of consciousness. I give this information to you so that your mind will now be able to toss it about a bit. See if it feels right to you, and see if it doesn't. My books are full of encouragement to know that either way, whatever you choose to believe, that is the reality that you will experience. And no reality is more correct than another. I thank you very much for your attention, and I'll finish now just with a couple more slides. The Big Bang is an end of this cycle of consciousness. When we return to the pure, enlightened state of the consciousness that is, and then with the quantum theory of collapse, we begin again the next cycle of consciousness. If you've enjoyed the information in my videos, all of it can be found in these two books, Lifting the Veil of Consciousness and Did Einstein Understand E = MC², Removing the Veil. Please contact me direct on my website or on my email for any questions. If you prefer ebook, I have it on Amazon Kindle and hopefully soon on my WordPress.com. Thank you.